Bagless education, or an education unburdened from the regimentation of physical textbooks, is gaining ground in India. Rather than just obsessing over rote learning, bagless education for a specified period allows school children in the grades between 6th and 8th to explore many unstructured creative and vocational pursuits across schools. Propelling some of that movement is Dr. Swaroop Sampat Rawal, a well known educator and expert on teacher training. Swaroop, who holds a Ph.D. in education and a Doctor of Letters from the United Kingdom, is that rare celebrity actor with once a raging TV career and fame followed by many films, who has transformed herself into a passionate advocate for teaching and education overhaul nationwide. She has just published her latest book, Play, Practice, Pursue: 10-Day Bagless School Approach to Pre-Vocational Education. Dr. Rawal spoke to Mayank Chhaya Reports from Mumbai about the growing recognition of the value of arts and aesthetics in the school curriculum across the country. Swaroop Sampat Rawal.
Explain bagless education concept, which seems to be like an education unburdened from the regimentation of carrying loads as manifest in physical textbooks, etc. The idea seems to be to free up children of a certain age group from the tyranny of structured learning for a period of time. Is that the right interpretation?
Yeah, absolutely it is. So it's a very interesting concept, and it's there in our national education policy. But I think even before that, there were a couple of people doing this. Like I was doing this with drama in education, in the village of Rajpur. Every Diwali, I used to do a 10-day drama camp in which we used to do one subject, whatever it was, and do it through drama. And obviously, because it was a drama camp, it was bagless.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really do away with reading and writing. So there would be a book in which the kids wrote reflections. And there was a lot of learning. So bagless doesn't mean not learning.
Indeed.
I think there was somebody else who was formerly doing something called a bagless school and bagless days or bagless periods in Gujarat. So if I'm sure I'm right, but I can't say for sure, 100% thing is that I think this concept of the bagless school has come from our Honorable Prime Minister into the national school, because he was the PM, the Chief Minister then when all this was happening in Gujarat. So, they've put 10-day bagless school. The other thing is that, what is the bagless school in the national education policy? It's 10 periods of fun, of learning vocations that they see around them, heritage visits to the museum, visits to higher education institutions, all that. For the 6th and the 7th and the 8th grade specifically. Okay. I have designed a part of the National Vocational Educational Framework with the previous government when Kapil Sibal was the Minister of Education. That was for vocational education for students after the 9th standard. And I used to request Narendra Modi ji to do something about that and make it for younger children. Because especially the children who are vulnerable and marginalized, like even the rural children, even the children in municipal schools and the slums of big cities like Mumbai and Delhi, all of them did not get an exposure to different vocations. So if you want them to start a vocational, going into some vocational stream from the 9th standard, They don't know what to do. And then when this new government came in, the BJP, they brought in this fantastic thing, Skilling India. That was for the youth. But again, the youth were not exposed to different things. My idea came from one thing directly mine, because my father, Mr. Bachu Sampat, he was the chief producer of the Indian National Theatre. I used to go to the theatre, I know, all my life. Like I remember even 4 and 5 years old, I'd go to the theatre. And I saw different things. I only didn't see the actor or the actress, but I saw the person who's designing the lights, the person who's designing the stage, the costumes. I saw makeup men. I saw all these things. And it's not surprising that when I finished school, the first thing I did, besides modeling, was professionally design costumes for a play for Berger Patel for the Indian National Theatre, and help design the sets. So another thing is that when I was growing up, and then we saw Steven Spielberg and we saw Ingmar Bergman, and Steven Spielberg, as you know, had a camera when he was very young.
Right.
And he would, make films at that time. See what happened to him. I mean, this is what happens, that passion starts at a very young age when you're exposed to all that, and the beauty of it. It's something that's really beautiful. So I wanted this for the children of India. And so I'm so glad, I'm so glad that they've added that in the Bagless period. And it's specifically exposure to pre-vocational education.
I see. Tell me the rationale behind choosing the grades 6 to 8.
You see, from the 9th standard, they can choose a vocation and stream out.
Okay.
So you got to prepare them for it. So I had initially suggested 5th standard even, but with the new 5 plus 5 plus 3 plus, the different divisions, how it was when we were studying, it was 10. You, I think,
Right.
must have done 10 plus 2 plus 3.
No, I did 11 SSC. Mine was the
Oh,
last
I
batch.
did 11 too. I was the last year.
Right.
But after that, like my sons and all, have still did, 10 plus 10 plus 2 plus 3. So exactly like that. They've divided it in such a way that middle school comes in 6th, 7th, 8th. And that's why it's in that period.
I see. Okay. You write in your book about what you call negotiated learning, one of whose defining aspects is the presence of arts and aesthetics in
Yes.
schools.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that. I'm fascinated by that.
So negotiated learning is a very funny thing. In the sense is, like when I walk into class, I'll tell you what's the funny thing. Like when I walk into class, I go, listen, there's total democracy in this class. And, everybody can decide what we are going to be doing and what we will do, but I'm the prime minister.
Okay.
So negotiated learning is not really like that, but it is what I, as a teacher, want to teach the children, but they can negotiate how to learn it, when to learn it, and where to learn it. So that is the negotiation.
Okay.
Is that I will not insist that you learn it up by heart and come. They can say, ma'am, let's do this through drama. And we would do the whole learning through drama. What has to be learned has to be learned. But the negotiation is how, when,
I see.
and maybe where.
And how did that work out? Because in the Indian system, it's always the teacher who's basically handing down pronouncements and instructions and punishment and
No, it's
moralizing
worked
and
out
sermons.
beautifully. I did it as an action research in my Ph.D. My doctoral research was a Ph.D. and I really did negotiated learning in my Ph.D. So I actually put it into practice. And it's like there were moments when they would say, we know the answer, but we don't want to tell you right now.
I see.
And I'd say, it's okay as far as you're paying attention in class and understanding what's happening, that's important. Because I know that the next time they're going to come and tell me the answer.
Okay.
So, and then since then, 2007 was when I started really well, working in Gujarat with the government primary schools. And then after that, I worked with the vulnerable and marginalized children in the cotton fields of Maharashtra and Gujarat. Then I worked with the Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. Then I worked in the sensitive districts of Maharashtra like Gadchiroli, Nandurbar, etc., where everywhere I've taught children or I've taught my teachers how to apply negotiated learning. And it has worked every time. Because you see, you have to make it so interesting. The other thing is you cannot force a person to learn. And having said that, I want to say that every child wants to learn. Every child wants to learn. So you cannot say no, you just have to do this now. Supposing I just close my brains and stop taking in what you're saying, then you can just go on, and it's not going to make a big difference at all. So that's where we'll start negotiating. Listen, kid, I need to teach you this. You tell me how you want to learn it.
I see. Right. Tell me how a 10-day bagless curriculum works and why only 10 days? Why couldn't it be expanded to a little more time?
It should be. I told you it was. I used to do this 10-day bagless school in Gujarat, and of course, a lot of people I've met now, they said, we are going to do more than 10 days, and there is nothing that stops you from doing more than 10 days. They've said do at least 10 days.
Okay. No,
But yeah. So sorry. Continue.
No, I was saying this is the 15th year of your having started drama camps. You started in 2018, where, as you mentioned, the focus
I
was.
started in 2007.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I misspoke.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about 15 years now.
Yeah.
It was a version of what became 10-day bagless learning.
No. I mean, I can say that, but no, not really. Because you see, in the drama camps, I would do one subject. Like I did this once, I taught the Dandi March for 10 days through drama.
Okay.
But this is specifically for pre-vocational education.
Okay.
It's not really to teach a subject bagless.
Okay. Now I'm more interested in how you think over these 15 years, what has that technique revealed to you in terms of its efficacy?
It is such a fantastic way to teach. Of course, I would like to take a middle road. In the senses, on one side are people who say throw out all the books and just go out in the field and blah 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 blue blue. And then on the other side there is that typical rote learning, which is anyways now going out of fashion. So I would take the middle road, and I would say we need an equal balance of both. What drama does, or what arts does, is it enhances the learning, it makes it fun, and it helps retention. But for example, like just yesterday, I did this lovely class for the National Mission of Mentoring, where I taught heritage visit, art, and mathematics. So I taught fractal geometries, which we taught our children in the Bagless school. I mean, in this trip to Lavad, we took them to Morera Sun Temple. And the kund, the water tank, has got the replication, the self-replicating style. So that's where fractal comes in. So we taught them about fractals there. Then we brought them back and we did fractals as art. Like a Y shape. And you just go on repeating the Y shape and you can make a wonderful tree. So, you need a clever mixture of art, of like I'll put drama with the art, okay? So let's say you need a clever mixture of art, theory, and practice. All of that should go together to make an ideal curriculum.
Right. Just killing
Because you
it.
know what? One second. When you do this thing, when you do the drama, when you do the art, you can never forget it. You may do the sum and you'll forget it. But once you have done this as like I remember we did democracy and citizenship as a workshop once. And that one kid was 5 years old in this, little school in Rajpur and in the village. And 2 years later, his teacher started Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and voting. So he goes, Peluj ne je Swaroop bene sikhwadelu, mane baddu yaad che. And dhar, he started telling about, civics. We had civics, right?
Right.
And it was the most boring subject on earth. But how could civics be boring? Because how can Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, voting, constitution, democracy, how can that be boring? But we were taught in that way.
Right.
Now my kids don't find it boring.
Yeah. I'm interested to know whether you think drama as a tool to advance education can cover pretty much all areas of education, say from sciences to mathematics to history
Of
to,
course.
and are we in a position to design a curriculum that would meet the requirements that you're talking about?
I don't think we need to make a curriculum. We need to teach the teachers the technique, how to do it, and then they need to learn how to apply it. Of course, it's going to take time, but that's what we are doing now with art integrated, because art and sport integrated studies has become a very important part of the national education policy. So till the 8th standard at least. In fact, they've said all the way up, holistic learning. So, art integration is going to be such an important thing. But then remember, art is so much. Like when you think of art, everybody is thinking of painting and now maybe drama, but it is drama, it is poetry, it is painting, it is graphics, it is puppetry, it is media. I use cinema in education. That is art integrated. So it's not only chalo, let's do role play, then no, it's much more than that.
Right. Just skilling is a major challenge in India, especially in the context of the 21st century pursuits where artificial intelligence is already appending lots of established models. Couple that with the fact that 70% of rural schools, I think you mentioned that figure in your book, lack high quality education. Don't you, as a professional educator, fear that we are creating entire generations of badly skilled young Indians?
No, I don't. I think we are going to change that. And if
But
you read,
you're talking about 70% of.
wait. If you read it, you see the reference. When was that paper written? Over 3-4 years back.
Yeah, but that figure couldn't have come down by much.
Well, things are changing. There are things changing. First of all, I am telling you, the world's best national education policy. I'm telling you, it is incredible. The people who created this policy, and I know that it's the Honorable Prime Minister who has a huge role to play in this. It is one of the world's greatest national education policy. And we have all been working on it by step. Like I was there in the first step after the policy, where, after the steering group and all that, I was there to write the position papers. We worked so hard to write the position papers. And, everybody could be skeptical and say, oh, yeah. But, 1 month back or less than, maybe a little more than that, maybe 2 months back, I read there's going to be holistic assessment from, grade 1 or maybe grade 8 or grade 8 to all the way up to Ph.D. And that's what we had written in the position papers, that there should be holistic assessment, and that assessment should carry on, from the 8th, it should go to the 9th, from the 9th to the 10th. And that's one way we would stop tuition classes or reduce the need for tuition classes. Well, they've actually passed it and it's there. This art integrated one, I was there in the position papers because I've written the position papers for pedagogy and curriculum. And I was one person, obviously, because I'm from drama and arts, and I was insisting on this. There should be art integration, and it's come. Today, I'm on the national mission for mentoring, training the teachers to use art integrated studies in schools. Of course, we have this huge population. We have this huge, we have a lot of diversity. We have this, the scale. But I think that the people who are running this country have understood about the scale. And you will be surprised, it's like etched in my mind. Because, when I met Narendra Bhai for the first time, Narendra Modi ji for the first time, I told him that I would train 40 teachers. And he said, bus. And I said, sir, 40. And he said, bus. I said, sir, 40, it's experiential learning. So he says, okay, start. And I kept on wondering, why is he saying that? In 2017, I trained 2.5 lakh teachers simultaneously, through satellite. But that satellite was something he set up in Gujarat. Okay. So, and I remember his first speech in, it wasn't 2017, it was 2015 when I did that. Why? Because it was very close to his speech of 2014, when he said that India has to move on scale, skill, and size, So it is etched in my mind, No, sorry, not size. It was speed, scale, and skill.
Okay. I'm interested to know from you the issue of scaling up within the huge urban, rural, huge economic inequities that prevail in India even now, although there has been a considerable improvement, but they still prevail. Within that, what are the challenges you think of scaling up a model that you're talking about?
Okay, so I cannot talk about anything else, but I will talk about education.
Right.
Yes, because not only do I know about it, but I'm also working on it, and I know from the field, like at the grassroots level. There is one reference in this huge national education policy to the National Mission for Mentoring. So right now, the National Council for Teacher Education has chosen 60 teachers of the 49 lakh plus teachers of the country. 60 of us are going to be training or, upskilling them in all their knowledge and their, styles of pedagogy and their curriculum matters and all that. For various fields, like I'm in the group which is doing art integrated studies. There are people who are going to do Sanskrit, there are people who are going to do math, science, and all that, according to the national education policy. You have to see the app that has been made. I log in, I put my class timing, like just yesterday, I put a group class. There are individual classes, there are group classes. So I put a group class and said, I'm doing a group class on heritage art, on heritage visit, art, and mathematics. Yesterday, there were about 28 to 30 teachers online with me. And for 1.5 hours, we did a session on that. Their reaction was, ma'am, what a class. We do some of this, but we don't have the confidence to do it. Now we will do it. And the other said, we never knew we could teach like that. We are going to go and do this. Okay. So I'm just one.
Right.
There are 60 others, and we are going to add more. So, that digital thing which the Honorable Prime Minister is crazy after, he really knows how to use this.
Right.
The teachers were from Kerala, there were some from Assam, there was some from Jammu. And I was there in Mumbai teaching them.
My sense from reading your book is that the primary target or audience is it's a handbook, sort of a handbook for
Teachers.
educators.
Yeah,
Now,
that's good.
in that sense, it does require a bit of an academic tone. Is
Yeah.
there any possibility that you can bring it down to a level where regular students can imbibe some of what you're advocating?
Well, this is specifically for teachers, schools, NGOs, and parents. The reason is I want parents to read it so that they can understand a lot about holistic education. There is this very interesting thing which I've talked about, which I know you must have read. But the whole world goes IQ, EQ.
Right.
But what about PQ, that's physical quotient? What about SQ, that's social quotient? What about SPQ, which is spiritual quotient? And what about AQ, that's aesthetic quotient? You see, Mayank, we are not just intelligence and emotion. They're much more than that.
Right.
I think we're all these things put together. So when we learn all this, we make a proper person. So, that's why if, this book would not be for children, for students.
Right.
The only students this would be for would be students who are doing B.Ed. So yeah, that way it could be, but no, this is specifically for teachers to understand and for schools to start thinking about not only physical education, but think about spirituality in classrooms, in the
Right.
schools. I think it's very important. Another thing I think which is very, very important is for us to understand Indian aesthetics. I am really sick of hearing the term Southeast Asia. I'm really sick of hearing the term Eastern knowledge. No, it's not Eastern knowledge. It's the Indian knowledge system.
It is.
And
I mean,
it's
it's
not
undeniable.
anything
Yes.
else. It's Indic aesthetics. You know why? Because the others are different. I'm not saying they're bad.
Yeah, this
China
is
is
distinct. No, it
fantastic
is
with its
distinct.
art, and so is Japan and Thailand and all, but they are not India.
No, true.
So,
I agree. No, that's true. It's a very distinct system, and unfortunately, it just gets brushed under the carpet from time to time.
well, now it won't, because
Yeah.
we have a beautiful subject which is going to be included in schools called the Indian knowledge system and the knowledge of India.
How is because we talked about the fact that it's such a large country with such diverse demographics, such diverse economic classes.
Yes.
Within those, how do you think someone like you can help create a sort of uniformity in terms of using these tools nationwide?
The way the uniformity comes in is because at every level, higher, lower, I mean, let's not get into any class or economic background or anything. Everybody needs this aesthetics. And India to bhari bhari ne chhe.
Right.
We are the one country which has got over 2,500 arts and crafts. It's so beautiful. And everybody does it. It's not as if, like we have the Banarsi weavers. And yes, they're not so well off, or they're very, middle or lower middle. But we had this fantastic people from the family of the Holkars who revived the Maheshwaris.
Right.
So, everybody cares for art. We have these fantastic women who, in the villages are doing Kachi embroidery. And I come from the Bhatia community. We have the middle and the upper class women sitting at home in the afternoons doing the, Kachi embroidery, because we come from there. So, I think arts unifies us. And that's one thing and maybe, I would pray that, our spirituality would unify us. But that is a little tough call,
No, it
but I
is.
know
You're treading
that
in
is
sensitive
me
ground.
with my hopes, you
No,
know.
I agree. I mean, you know my background. I have no response to a subject like that, in the sense I'm not a believer by any measure. Not even, I reject even spiritualism wholehearted. There is nothing like that. But that's beside the point. But I see
But
what you're
then,
saying. It is
but then I
necessary.
want. Let me see if I can find what I have said, and I really like it. You can go on talking till then. Let me find
No,
it for
no, so
you.
no, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but this is my personal standpoint, which is of no consequence to anybody else. It's just the way I think.
No, 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 that doesn't matter. But this is what I think. Um, mm, where did it go? No, go on talking because
No,
it'll
no,
take
no,
me some time to
no,
find
but
it.
I think it's necessary that you do focus on spiritual traditions.
Yes.
If they are controversial, so be it, because they are parts of our lives.
Yeah, so you know that part where I've talked that
Yeah,
spirituality is, a poetry and its nature and its, here it is. Um, Drawing on the concept of spirituality of writers, philosophers, and spiritual leaders, I have compiled a list of what spirituality can mean. An experience about seeking a meaningful connection with someone bigger than yourself, love, nature, sacrifice, hope, art, music, poetry, energy, positive thoughts and energy, examining your life, self development, moving towards a state of awakened understanding, mindfulness, a search of meaning. All of that is spirituality. So, why do we look at spirituality only with the focus of religion?
no, but that's the prevailing reality. Why is beside the
So
point.
we
The
need to
prevailing
change it,
reality has to be
right?
changed.
So supposing we bring that into our schools and we start teaching the kids from the first standard that this is what spirituality
Agreed.
is. How
I
about
agree
that?
100. I agree 100%. I mean, look at this tree right next outside my window. If that's the definition, that's the very embodiment of spirituality that we
Isn't
are
it
talking about.
that lovely picture you put about the tree? Is I don't know if it's the same tree you're
It
talking
is.
about.
It
It
is.
is. And I
Yeah.
think that's spirituality.
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah, so
So
you are one person who should not be talking about not being spiritual
no, no, I'm
because
not.
no, but when you're
I'm
doing
not
your
remotely
paintings,
spiritual.
but when you're doing your paintings and when you're singing your songs, I think that is a lot to do with spirituality.
Not possibly. I mean, there is one way of looking at it, but my
Because it's
responses
not
are
a
not.
one-off thing,
No,
it's
true,
not
true.
something you're doing casually. You're doing it from your heart and your soul.
Yeah, but my
So
responses are not human. That's
oh,
all I'm
yes.
saying.
And there is that lovely paragraph which is at the end of my epilogue. I
Yeah,
won't read it out because it's very long, but it is, Sri Aurobindo saying that there's not enough research and science done on the soul. But just
agreed.
because we don't know about that, we cannot not teach our children about the soul.
Yeah, I'll give you a small example. I was talking to Dr. Tony Nader, who is a very well-known transcendental meditation master, as well as a very highly regarded neuroscientist. One of the points that I raised to him some time ago was about the concept of kshanika. Kshanika is a very Buddhist concept where they talk
Yeah.
about life being from moment to moment to moment. 1500 years, maybe 1800 years ago, there was a debate in India about if life is from moments to moments to moments, what lies in between. Now, look at the profundity of the debate. We seem to be losing that. I
Yeah.
wish something like that was brought back into our school learning.
I think so, it should. But if we start, then they will,
Yeah,
reflect like this. If you
true.
don't give them a chance, how are they going to do it?
And I'm so glad that at least you are passionately persisting with it. I don't know of anybody else in that high profile who's doing it. So just hammer your way all the way. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Now, this is
So
terrific. I'm so glad the book how is it doing?
it's doing pretty well. Of course, it's like just the beginning.
Yeah, but it
And
should be prescribed as a sort of a part
we're
of
right.
the
we are translating it in Gujarati and Hindi.
No, but I'm saying beyond that, shouldn't it be prescribed as learning for teachers across the
It
country?
should be. It should be. It should be.
How
Yes,
do you
it
how do
should
you
be.
go about it? Given your connections, I'm sure you can push it.
I don't have any connections,
No, but you have
but
certain profile
seriously.
which can work in your favor. Why not?
Yeah, so I will try. I'm going to be trying it. Well, it's just been released, and we've just had a few these things. I'm
Right.
waiting for the Gujarati book and the Hindi book to be done, and then I want to, talk and get it done. We're trying to get this into every school in Gujarat.
Okay.
That's the first step.
Okay.
And then we
Wonderful.
shall try Maharashtra and then the other
No,
states.
this is terrific. I'm so glad that this has come out, and hopefully you'll have many more coming in.
Yes, I hope so. Yes. Well, this year I'm going to have 5 publications. So I
Wonderful.
hope
Yeah,
I'm
you
getting you
mentioned it to
jealous.
me the other day.
Yes. So I've already had my second one, which was in
Yeah.
IGI Global. I have to send that to you.
Please do.
I
Yeah.
will. It is called Being in the Beyond Democracy Cafe as a Curriculum in the Third Space.
Oh, nice. Nice. But do I tell?
It's in a book called Third Space in Educational Experiences. Third Space
Interesting.
as Educational Experiences.
But I mean, this is a minor point I'm making. Does it mean that you have basically disengaged from your movie career?
No, I haven't, but just now, all this is really taking up my time. And this is like my life's work. So
Yeah.
this has to be done. And then I will do films as and when they come.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about your publisher, because this is, like I said, an academic book, and I'm sure it has its marketing challenges. I would be interested to know what the publisher is.
Yes, so it was a really interesting thing. The publishers are Himalaya Publishing House. They publish academic books. In fact,
I
they
see.
publish books for colleges and higher education. But this wonderful friend of mine called Anuj Pandey. I was telling him about this 10-day drama camp which I was doing, and I'm like, once I do it, then I'm going yap 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 about it everywhere. And he goes, I said I'm going to write a book about it, and he says, "Ma'am, give me the book." So I said, "Sure, definitely." And so they decided to publish a book which they normally don't publish. And I was going through a terrible time. You see, it was too much stress happening. Mummy was very, very ill and in the ICCU and, in and out. And then we lost her. And I would go, "Anuj, I'm missing my deadline by 6 months." And he says, "This is not a book. You're writing about your love, your passion, your soul. This is more than a book. So take your time." And he was so patient about it. And, he just let me say whatever. Like I said, "Will this be controversial? Will that affect your, publishing house?" He says, "Don't worry. Just write what you want to write." And I think, working with them has been the greatest experience.
How wonderful. That's always wonderful to have a good publisher like that.
Yes, really.
All right.
Thanks. Yeah.
That does it.
Yeah, thank you.
No, no.
Seriously, they're so nice.
अच्छा, क्या
I
बेस
mean,
क्या है?
Bombay. In fact, he's my neighbor. So
Oh,
that's why Paresh gets really mad. I said, nobody writes about their publishers. And he says, "No, but he's not just an ordinary publisher,
right.
you know. And he is actually so fantastic. Uje kaute he's ready to do.
अच्छा,
And yeah, like I think and the thing is, it is so funny because after the book was published, I was at his place having tea, and he says, "Tell me where my office failed you." So I said, they didn't. In fact, I've learned so much. So what I learned from my first publisher, if I'd worked with Himalaya then, I would have done a much better book.
yeah.